stand-up comedy is what helped me. It's like I tricked myself into just laughing instead of crying.
Yeah, I love that.
I like to watch other people do stuff.
On TikTok or like...
Yeah, because they're always like, see the longer version on YouTube. Why would I watch a longer?
You're like, I got it. Hi, hello. It's your host, Zach Lyman, and you're watching or listening to the Zach Lyman Podcast. And thank you so much for tuning in once again. And I have a wonderful episode with my new friend, Selena, and we talk about anxiety and self-love and healing and audiobooks. Honestly, it's such a fun conversation, and Selena does so many cool things with live events, and she has her own podcast, and I don't want to take any more time away, so please check out this episode. But before we do, head over to my website, Zach Lyman Podcast, and check my upcoming tour dates, and also subscribe to the podcast on YouTube or on Spotify. It really would help. And let's not waste any more time. Let's just get into this episode with my new friend, Selena.
Thank you so much for having me, first of all. I'm very grateful to be here. My name is Selena Green, and I am an artist and entrepreneur.
Nice. And so you have a podcast. And okay, so what sparked starting the podcast?
Probably, honestly, me running my mouth, as I tend to do. I have a background in nonprofit administration. And so I was building my family's nonprofit, a family-ran nonprofit. And I was developing programming and facilitating programming out in the community, building partnerships, etc. And during this time, I was having a lot of healing-focused conversations because that's what the programming was that I was developing. Okay. And I was also on my own individual healing journey at that time. And through doing this community work, I started engaging with community healing. And so I'm having these conversations, I'm doing the community healing, and people are like, you should do a podcast. Like it kept on being said to me, and not just by like, you know, people, haters, you know, or people who doubt me or push me down or whatever. It was being said to me by people who like saw me, who were leaning in, who were uplifting me. And I was like, okay, well, if it's these people and the same message is coming and I know they aren't talking, then maybe I should listen, because I'm stubborn a little bit. Yeah. So it did come to me more than once. But yeah, I was like, all right, I'll look into it.
Yeah. And what's your podcast called?
It is called the Hot Girls Healing Podcast.
And why that name?
I did a little bit of market research.
Okay.
And so I had 3 names that were my favorite names that I came up with. Yeah. I had pared down from a longer list, like, you know, just shooting whatever I could think of, down to intentionally, what do I want this to say or do? I had 3 names. Mm-hmm. That was the one by a long shot that people responded to. And I was like, okay. I wanted it to be called like Unapologetically Me Podcast.
And people are like,
too long, kind of feeling it, not really feeling it.
Interesting. But they're like, the hot girl.
But they're like, the Hot Girls Healing Podcast. No, we like that. And I said, all right, y'all just want me on my worst behavior. But no, I honestly like the name because it allowed for me to be who I am, you know, a little bit messy, still learning, not perfect, but worthy.
Yeah. So how long have you been doing the podcast?
The podcast is on its 3rd season, which means I've been doing this for going on 3 years now.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's definitely like, I don't think people recognize there's a lot of work behind the scenes with the podcast. And then doing seasons is a good idea. Because like, you know, there's some podcasts, and I've definitely done this before, where it's just like, just nonstop and you don't take any breaks. And it's like, just the amount of effort that goes into that. Yeah. And then I knew that you had a podcast, and then I know that you do, like, you're involved with live events. And do those just kind of like fall in, like, are those like work hand in hand, or?
To a certain extent, yeah. Like, I'm an artist. I'm a podcaster. I'm an organizer. I do a lot of things. And so they're all connected and they all do tend to be intertwined to a certain degree. A lot of the artists that I book, some of them will end up on my podcast just because of the conversations that we're having, or they might end up coming to one of my workshops, and being a participant in that way, because they're an artist who's on their healing journey, so it all ends up intertwined.
Yeah. So, how long have you been doing like the live events then?
So that through my business for about 3 years.
Okay.
But before that, because I have a background in nonprofit development and facilitation, I've actually been holding groups for about 7 years. I entered the nonprofit sector at 21 years old, and I was a program manager right off the bat.
Yeah.
So I've always been at kind of a high level in the nonprofit sector, and then that transferred into me, kind of running my own business. So I'm still at the high level within my own business. It really transferred.
So have all the like live events that you work with, are they always nonprofit, or are
they're kind of a mix? Always, but I do tend to work with nonprofits just because I love community-based work. I love mission focused work or mission-driven work. And so a lot of that does tend to come from the nonprofit sector. I'm not in the nonprofit sector anymore, but I do still, have ties there. So not always, but often.
Yeah. And then like when you're doing these live events, like, what's that look like? Because it seems like you do all kinds of them, right? So it's like, are you always the planner, or are you just kind of like delegating, or like, what's it look like nowadays for you with the planning?
Yeah, so organizing is in my background.
Yeah.
I love putting things together, events, people, whatever it is. So I'll come in to the degree that I'm needed. Right now, I'm working on a sports related event. I do not sport, but but it's about community. It's about bringing people together. So I'll plan the event, and I'll think about all the details, and I'll think about how they fit together. I do tend to take on a role usually when I'm planning as like a facilitator, or I might be the point person who's just seeing how all of this is actually going to fit together.
Yeah. And like, what's the size of these? Are they just like all shapes and sizes, and people just come to you with ideas and they're like, I have this crazy idea. Please help me.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah. Or someone's telling me about an event, and then I'm like inspired by it, and I have ideas about how I could support it. And so sometimes that's how I end up helping facilitate an event as well. But, I'm a host, so sometimes people just hire me to come and say the things, and I do that too.
Yeah. That's like something as like a stand-up that I often get plugged into, where it's like I'm hosting something, and it may not always be something like a community I'm a part of, or anything, but it's like, they've reached out. But it's interesting that you're kind of like doing all sides of that, and you're like working with these events. Is there like some kind of, like, here we are heading into the summer months here in Seattle. Is there like some summer month events that you're like about to launch, or?
Yes, because I like to work outside. Nature is very important to me, and indigenous practices do inform my work. So my healing events are often going to be summer-based. I'll do things throughout the year. Of course, I have my monthly self-love meetup, which is literally virtual. So we do that year-round, even in the nasty months in Seattle. And we meet up and we just talk. We literally talk about whatever people want to talk about, whatever you are working on. If you have a project, if you have a problem, you just want some advice or to vent, that's what that space is for. But in the summer, I also have, my self-love workshop. My self-love workshop was the first programming that I developed through my business, because it was just what I was finding. I was finding that there was this need to focus on ourselves. especially during the pandemic, people had time to think. They had time to reflect.
Yeah, and too much time for me.
Too much time for a lot of people.
I was not doing well.
Stuff was coming up, and not just for me, not just for you. There's kind of this wave that's coming, and I felt that early on.
Yeah.
Before the pandemic even. My intentional self-love journey started when I was 18 years old. I'm 31 now. Okay, so it was a long time of me on this journey before I felt like I was at a point where I could share or had anything to share.
Yeah, that's understandable. Yeah, and that's it. So it makes me wonder, like, when you say like a self-love like event or, any of that like healing side of thing, what's that like? I don't even know what that would look like in a group setting outside.
Yeah, it's so I said I'm an artist, right? One of the arts that I feel like I do is the art of holding space.
Okay.
So I hold the space. We create an environment. Again, I do, my work is informed by indigenous practices. So we're calling certain spirits into the space and we're holding certain intentions. It's something that I create together with the people that I'm with. We create this vulnerability in the space that makes it sacred.
Yeah.
Once the space becomes sacred, there's so much healing that we're able to do in that space. And it can be outside or it can be in a podcast, in a podcast episode. That's the power of it. It's all about us and what we're able to do and what we allow ourselves to do through self-love, which for me is just knowing yourself, trusting yourself, and then really loving yourself. Because sure, I loved myself always, but not intentionally. I didn't really pay attention to myself the way that I needed to, and it showed in my life for a while.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I feel that. Definitely.
No, it's real because, you can do all the things, and I was doing the things. I was reaching my goals, but I wasn't like happy. And so that was the part that started to be something I couldn't ignore anymore.
Yeah. So, I mean, does that look like, I guess like, how does that look on the day-to-day? Is it just being thoughtful with your intentions, or is it like, writing, or, like what's that look like?
A whole lot of shit. Am I allowed to cuss?
Yeah, okay. Be yourself.
Sorry, I never asked this ahead of time. I'm always asking after I've already cussed. But it looks like a whole lot of different shit. And that's the thing about it. I am definitely there to facilitate healing, but I never pretend like I'm going to heal anyone. No, you're going to do that for yourself. You're the only one who can. And so it looks like a lot of different practices. My self-love workshop actually looks different every single time I do it. It's what I feel called to that day. It's activity-based. So I do research. I have a degree in community psychology, which obviously lends to the community-based work that I do.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And so the research that I do informs the practices.
Yeah.
And then I kind of, it is a little bit intuition based. I really set some time aside when I know that this workshop is coming up, and I meditate with intention for this next workshop.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that kind of helps me anticipate what I'm going to do, what the vibe is going to be. And then I know what activities, I'm like, so I know I want to do this activity then because I'm feeling called to say this, and I'm going to do this because sometimes I feel because there's going to be someone there who needs this. And that's just what the intuition is.
That makes a lot of sense. And so I think I have like a better understanding now of like in the in-person, like a group setting, working on it where it's like, it's kind of shaped a certain way, giving good intentions. And then I'm sure there's a lot of, I don't know, besides lack of a better, I guess like hands-on, the feeling to it that then you can walk away with like, oh, I didn't realize that this would help me relax or think about things or work through something or
It's like, not only do I want us to experience this shared vulnerability that frankly we all need. Humans, we're social beings. So even though we live in a pretty individualistic society and we have all these, new waves of, male loneliness, or the signs are there, right? We need to connect. So the shared vulnerability helps with the connection. And then absolutely, we want to walk away with some skills, some exercises, like a new practice that I can do, put in my knapsack for the next time I feel stressed, or the next time that some, intrusive thoughts are popping up, or I made a mistake and now I'm just berating myself in my head. This is going to give you a tool to stop that or counter it, or,
that's all really, and it keeps coming up on this podcast about like just being present. And I feel like we have a lot of conversations on the show about mental health in general, and kind of like the shifts that are happening, not only just like in our realm really, but like also just like with social media and how we approach life. And I really do feel like we are heading into this like time where we are wanting community more. And like, I feel there is going to be a shift to like events and community building more than trying to get followers online. So how do you feel, I guess, what's your relationship with social media at the moment?
Look, I'm like, thank God that's where we're going, because I am not doing well on social media. Give me the real life. No, social media has always been fine for me. I train my algorithms pretty well. It's cat videos and funny stuff. I don't really I do see things online that upset me. Like, it's unavoidable at this point. And so for me, social media is like mostly something I use for business. I'm not really on there very much in my personal time. I'm going to watch a show. Like, I love my comfort shows. I'm a movie buff, right? Really? So like, that's my go-to comfort to, get through the day or whatever. It's not necessarily social media.
Yeah. And I definitely, I used to be really heavily into it, and I am feeling the shift of like, doom scrolling's not what I want to do with my time.
Mm-hmm. I love to send a meme every once in a while, but it's the sharing it, right? We love the memes because we get to laugh at it and then we get to share it with someone else. So even that is about community. I don't necessarily demonize social media, because I think even social media is just people wanting to connect with people, which is what people are here. That's what we do. We're social. So social media is not an issue for me, but I do feel that shift towards real life connection and things that are genuine, which sometimes social media is not genuine.
For sure.
And people want what is authentic. I do feel that shift coming. And that does come more with event-based things where you can actually sit down with people, get to feel someone's energy. Even in virtual settings, people are wanting that deeper intention.
Yeah. And it's... I can see that and feel that, and I really think that's, it's like, it's funny because I moved to Seattle, and part of my goal is this summer to just be out more and just enjoy it more, and just and I've been so just I've just been really like working hard lately, and so I took June like off, and the only thing I'm gonna do is just relax, see the city. And like, just be around,
Oh, I'm so happy for you. What a wonderful thing you did for yourself.
Trying to like.
No, you did that.
Yeah, thank you. I'm trying to be more thoughtful of my intentions and my time, and like feel like the last 2 years has really just been focused on my comedy special, and now that like I filmed that literally like a couple weeks ago, it's just kind of like, okay, I can just relax for a bit. And I'm like, okay, let me be a person. Let me be social. Let me, try new things. So these like live events that you're doing, are you noticing like a trend of like the type of people that are coming to them, or is it a mixture of all kinds of people, or?
That's such a good question. I think it's a pretty good mixture, demographic wise. Like, again, I've been a part of a lot of different kind of events. Sometimes it's an artist showcase,
Right.
sometimes it's a wellness event, sometimes it's a conference or a watch party, you know.
Yeah.
So but everything that I'm a part of does have that little extra thing to it, right? So I've noticed that it's people who want community. That is the one like common denominator. Every other demographic has varied.
Yeah.
But it
okay.
is people who are seeking community, art lovers, mostly people in the Seattle area, but people are also driving out from Puyallup, and
Oh,
you know,
okay.
people will come from somewhere if you are holding something that really is offering them community that they haven't experienced. Like, people want to find
Yeah.
their group, you know, where they fit in, where they can be seen and accepted, because it's not something that is guaranteed, and we often don't find it in the people closest to us. It does take some effort to find those people.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. And, you know, Seattle's, when maybe I'm just like so new here, but it seems like Seattle is such a big city, but the actual amount of like events that happen are like almost less than I would think. I feel like there's like a real need for events, and even like in stand up, where it's like we have a few comedy clubs here, but like there's actually not as much stand up as you would think. And then that bleeds into like not as many music or other events, and so it's great to like hear someone that's like building this and working on it and being a part of that to kind of grow it. But yeah, it's. Do you feel like there's been like a shift over the years as you've been like working that in Seattle, or?
Yeah, Seattle's wild with the way that they do events here. It's like, I don't even know why, but it's like Seattle will have no events, and then all of the events are on the same 3 days.
Yeah.
So that's a recurring issue. I don't know if it's ever going to be solved here, because it is kind of a small city. It's like a big city, small city in Seattle.
Yeah.
So, and then given how many people will come from, you know, the neighboring areas to Seattle for events as well.
Yeah.
I actually have heard people start to complain at events in Seattle because they're like too crowded, or
Really?
you know, the big ones.
Right.
This event that I'm talking about was you know, during the holidays, and the light maze thing finally came back. People went. It was bonkers, obviously, and people were like, "There's too many people here." Things like that.
Yeah.
But again, it's because Seattle has no events and then has all of the events at the same time. So I tend to agree with you. There is a lot of opportunity for events, like there is opportunity in pretty much every sector in Seattle. There's so much opportunity for growth here. So really just having your event and sticking to it, I think tends to be the hardest thing, sticking to
sure.
it, because all of the events are all on the same day. You might not get the turnout that you want the first time you have the event.
Yeah.
In Seattle, you might have to have your event a couple of times.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. You know, and it's just like with podcasting too, where it's like so many podcasts don't get past 3 episodes,
Right.
and it's like live events where it's like, yeah, you just kind of have to keep working at it for sure. I also wanted to ask you, with kind of the space that you're in, is there like self-healing myths that you wish we would just get rid of?
Dang. Self-healing myths. I don't know of any. Like, what are some myths associated to self-healing? Fake it until you make it? Is that like a myth, or is that just a saying?
I guess that's a saying.
Yeah, that's just a saying. Okay. I don't know, because I don't know of any myths. Maybe like a common misconception around self-healing that I'm seeing from people. I think accountability is going to be one of them.
Really?
Like there's some people who just don't want to be told anything, not even by the people closest to them. Like,
for sure.
No one can tell me that I'm doing wrong because sure, maybe.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what the situation is for everyone, so I'm not going to speak in absolutes. But I do think that there has to be accountability for community to really thrive and function together.
Yeah.
And so I think one of the attitudes that I see around is that people don't want to be like checked, or they don't want to be called out or called in or whatever we're calling it today. But I do believe that everyone needs to have people that they can trust in their life.
Yeah.
And a part of that trust is trusting people when they're telling you, hey, you may have misstepped. There may be something that you need to reflect on, because there's no way forward. There's no way to resolve conflict without that. Really.
Yeah. Yeah. Which makes, that's totally true. And that's definitely probably a hard one to swallow, where it's like you're doing all these right things of like, taking some time to really reflect and grow as a person. And then someone's like, hey, you didn't do these things right. Right. And then they're like, oh no. Like, so it's a heavy one. It's probably, it's a hard pill to swallow for sure.
Even like someone saying, hey, that landed on me differently than how you intended it.
Yeah.
Right. Because I'm not over here doing all this work on myself to be told that I didn't do it right. Right.
Yeah.
Like, I'm over here, making efforts, setting intentions. What do you mean? What do you mean I didn't show up for you the way that I intended to show up for you? It can be a hard pill to swallow. Yeah. And it happens to me. I'm not someone who shows up perfectly in all my relationships, even despite my greatest efforts. People do say, Selena, you had me fucked up when you did X, Y, and Z, and this is how, and this is why. And I have to take the time to, one, feel the emotions that I feel when I'm told I did something wrong as a Virgo. As a Virgo. And then, I then practice accountability. I gotta tell the truth to myself. Okay, despite your intentions, this is how it landed. And then, do I want to make this right? Is a valid question.
Yeah.
Do you want to make it right? And then if you do,
Yeah, because one thing that I've been struggling with is I'm working on two things. I'm working on being a people pleaser, and I'm working on being a perfectionist.
Ooh.
And those things...
Stop calling me out.
Those two things I was just talking the other day about how I'm working on being a people pleaser, and one thing I have to recognize is that sometimes I will have a thought or an opinion that other people might disagree with, and that's okay. And how often I'm in public just going, nodding along with someone as they say something crazy, and I go, yep, totally, all right, well, I'll see you later, instead of just being like, actually, I don't agree with that thing, or, like finding that, that's a pretty extreme, but like finding that in between of like the social cues of it all, and then also the like being able to sleep at night, being like, I stood for what I want to stand for, and I'm not going out of my way to please someone that has no part of my life even sometimes.
Oh my gosh. No, literally. So my business promotes self-love, yes, of course, but also relationship healing. And it's both always, because, healing and community.
Yeah.
And the reason why it's both is because of things like perfectionism and people pleasing. Because when you are in your people pleasing bag, you're not being true to yourself, and thus you're not being true to others. And that is what I found. I was in relationships where I was like building resentment towards people for doing things that I offered to do.
Yeah.
Why are you offering to do things you don't want to do? People pleasing. And that is a you thing, Selena. So I fixed that. You have to work with yourself so that you're operating from a place that is loving towards yourself, and then you're not building resentment in your relationships. And for me, it was like random resentment that didn't need to be built, because here I am creating the issue.
Yeah.
And the same thing with perfectionism, like the perfectionism that I was applying to myself, these unrealistic expectations, or maybe they're realistic, but I wasn't meeting them in that moment. And then because I wasn't, unacceptable, unlovable, all the things that come with being a perfectionist. And then also that energy goes to other people who I'm in relationships with. Now you have to meet unrealistic, impossible standards too. And if you can't meet them, guess what? So it's like these things, when I say self-love, it's not just like woo woo, like let's go frolic through the field and nothing we do is wrong. It's real self-love, accountability, protection, trust, knowledge. How do you love yourself if you don't know yourself?
Yeah.
I spent years not even really being present in my body because of anxiety. And then I'm having to learn, like, genuinely, what does it feel like when I'm hungry? Because I only know what it feels like to be starving, because I've ignored my body and all of its signals for hours until it's like screaming at me. I was going to say small things like that. That's actually kind of big, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, I've been on like that journey, because like it feeds into my stand-up, obviously, right? Like I have so many jokes about anxiety. I have so many jokes about weird social situations I got myself into, if I really broke it down, was people pleasing. And so it's like bleeding into that. So then it's like I come to write new material and I'm like, yeah, maybe I should take a moment and learn myself, do some healing, be present, and not just be this anxious person all the time. And I also, during the pandemic, went down a crazy rabbit hole of audiobooks of anything that's like self-help. Just I was like long drives to nowhere, just listening to like hours of like self-help books.
Yeah. Oh my God. Somebody got me a book. A therapist that I know, shout out to you, Ashley, if you ever see this. She got me this book, and it was called like Claiming Your Abundance Now or something like that. And I was like, wow, like this is such a good book. Like, let me get into it. I got into that book and immediately started being called out. I was like, oh, like, oh gosh, am I sleeping on myself? Am I not being disciplined the way that I need to so that I can, achieve what I say I want to achieve? Like, if I'm saying I want to achieve it, why am I not acting like I want to achieve it? She's right. Like the lady who wrote the book. So like, yes, the self-help books, they do help. You have to really be in the space to receive what's being said to you, because when I really kept it a buck, she didn't say anything in that book that I hadn't heard before in some other place. But I was so like, it was just something about the alignment in my life. It just clicked. What she was saying really clicked. And I started to really implement those changes in my life. And I think it only could have been because I had been working on myself and with myself for so long that I said, okay, I'm going to take this chance on you. I'm going to invest in you, like, to myself, because on my journey through this people pleasing, I had done so much to show other people how much I believed in them and how much I wanted them to succeed and believed that they could succeed. But when it came to me doing that for myself, I was out there like Bambi on some shaky little legs, like in the movie when he like falls and spins, and like that was me believing in myself for real. It was so shaky to begin with. And I had to like be my own coach and be like, it's okay to be afraid, it's okay to be nervous. You're just nervous because this is your first time doing it for yourself, but remember, you've done this before, right? And so my conversation with myself was so different after this time.
Yeah, and you're so right. Like when you like put on a book or read a book like that, it can be really like you have to be ready for it and accept it and like be there. And there's definitely times that I've started listening to a book maybe on a drive or something and then been like, oh, this is not the time to be like unpacking this, let me pause on this. Let me go back to something, let's just put on a fun podcast and laugh for a bit. But you have to be like ready for that. And then, it's like, I also same of like, there's, man, how I didn't recognize that so much of my life, I'm like doing all these things for other people. And then for myself, I'm not being confident in who I am or in my skills. And then with stand up, it's like, there was a time where it was just like, I'd get off stage and my self-esteem would be wildly different depending on how well I did. And then it's like, well, how are you going to get to the next step if you're just constantly in this like, oh no, I did terrible, and whatever. It's like, no, it's fine. You can do well, you can do bad. It's just one gig, and you can move on. And then like kind of unpacking that a little bit more of like recognizing like how much confidence affects stand up. And then it's like, well, now this is affecting my career, not only just me as a person.
It's real.
Yeah.
And it's all interconnected.
Yeah. And so then it's like, I started listening to more and more audiobooks, and then there is a turning point where you're like, okay, I've listened to so many that you're like, this is just saying the same as this other book that I listened to. And it's like finding the right, balance of that. But
yeah, and like finding the truth of what they're saying in your life. Because I'm always like, okay, how does this apply to me?
Yeah,
like, what you talking about?
Yeah.
So that's so real. And I also like, I'm really going back, but I love what you said about like the having anxiety and then doing comedy and the relationship between the two. Because I just remembered this, but I used to cry when I had to drive because my anxiety was so bad.
Really?
Like I would be in tears on the freeway because I was so scared and anxious.
Really?
Stand-up comedy is what helped me. I would go to,
no way,
on Spotify or whatever, and I would put in stand-up comedy, and just laughing is what helped me get through the anxiety of driving to the point where I don't have anxiety driving anymore.
That's crazy.
Isn't it? It's like I tricked myself into just laughing instead of crying.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I mean, I also am a person of like, on a hard day, I'll just put on like one of my favorite comedy specials, and that's how I can kind of like relax and calm down as a person.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's like, I think that's really interesting that like stand up was really, is there other points that are you like always listening to stand up, or is it only like you're like driving for some reason? I
enjoy comedy,
Yeah.
So that was what I was thinking. I was like, music isn't working. Like I'm crying, listen to the music. I need something that's gonna engage me a little bit more. And then I was like, well, I love comedy. Let me try stand-up comedy. And that's really worked.
Interesting.
I actually want to ask you, like, did you find that through your, comedy bits with anxiety and upon the reflection and the healing that you're going through, have you found any comedy in like approaching a situation that made you anxious before and noticing that you didn't feel the same way? Or have you found like humor in the healing when it comes to anxiety?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird because it's either sometimes there is moments where something's happening, and in that moment I'm already like, oh, okay, this is actually funny. This is actually fun. And that kind of can bring me into like a different, be able to handle and kind of like maneuver through that, right? Like kind of like figure that out. But I would say there's a lot of times where some of my best jokes are where it's like something I really was stressed about, something that really like either, because I have a lot of social anxiety. I'm always afraid of saying the wrong thing or stumbling over my words or whatever, right? Like total fear. Like I'm already thinking about something I said earlier, so it's like just stressed. And, but it's like some of my best material where it's like I just have like really thought about it so much that then I start finding the kind of momentum in it, and then later can kind of like process it by telling it on stage. So there's been many times where it's like, here's a thing that happened, let me go on stage and talk about it. But then there is moments where like in the moment I'm like, oh yeah, this is a bit, like this is a bit, let's see where this goes. Let's see what happens. But yeah, it definitely, comedy is like integrated in my life in so much that it's like, yeah, with anxiety or whatever, I'm quick to kind of in stressful moments make a joke. So
I love that. Comedy, it helps distract you from the anxiety real quick.
Right. Yeah, it helps me get out of my head sometimes. And that's why I also, it's like, it's nice to hang out with other comics because we can kind of like, we're all kind of maybe approaching it the same way of like a stressful moment or something we're going through in general. But yeah. And plus being like a storyteller, it's like often that's where it's like, well, here's a thing that happened.
Yeah, so. I actually really love the storytelling element of comedy. I think that's part of what like attracts me to stand-up comedy, because I'm a reader, like I'm a nerd. I love reading. I love stories. And so I love the comedy, in comedy, folks who do the storytelling aspect of it.
Yeah. Do you have like some favorite comics?
I wouldn't go that far just because I'm not good with names.
Oh, okay.
So I'm the
same.
I would have to see them and be like, oh yeah, that person's funny. I like their stuff. So I have people like that where it's like if I'm going through something and I'm like, oh, they have a new special. Like, let's see what it is.
Yeah.
Could not tell you a single name.
Yeah, I'm the same way with music, where I'm like, I have no idea, but I like music.
Yeah, literally. My sister is always like, oh, do you want to go to this person's concert? I'm like, I've never heard of this person in my life. She's like, you love like 5 of their songs. I'm like, oh, all right, well.
That's so funny.
Good to know.
And then, but you're a writer too, right?
Yes. Barely, but yes.
Barely? What's that mean?
I just don't feel like I've written very much. And then also, like, I have a performance art background. You can't really perform writing. So I'm like, is it art if I can't perform it?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could, but then it'd be spoken word and...
Yeah.
I'm good.
Not into the spoken word?
I like spoken word by some people. It's probably like not my favorite art form though.
Yeah.
I just feel like people always speak in a certain way when they're doing spoken word, and it's hard for me to get into.
Yeah, I get it. It's definitely like not my go-to for sure.
So, but yeah, I do write. I wrote a prompted journal because journaling was something that really helped me on my healing journey. But it was also something that was really hard for me for several reasons. But journal prompts really helped me get into writing. And so I was like, well, let me pay it forward. I wrote a little prompted journal. Okay.
And is it like what kind of prompts are in there?
So they are specifically prompts that I have used to reflect on in my own healing journey, to know and trust and love myself. These were the questions I asked myself. These were the sentences that I finished. That's kind of like, and early on when I was just finding, journal prompts randomly, it wasn't like I was going to a journal prompt website and finding a prompt. I would literally just respond to random questions that I heard or saw, or if I felt like that question was for me, I would do a journal response to it. So to help myself with getting into like what this is supposed to actually be.
Yeah.
I still haven't really gotten into stream of consciousness journaling for whatever reason. I can't really. I feel like my journaling has to be something. It has to, you know what I mean? Like, perfectionism. No. Yeah.
Do you journal daily or no?
I journal when it comes to me. I keep my journal on me every day. So that if I try to journal intentionally. So if I'm feeling like inspired, if a lot has happened in my life, because another thing that I really try to do to honor my ancestors and my culture, my community, is archiving. It's something that's pretty big in the Black community. I mean, a lot of people don't know this. Whenever I say it, they're like, really? I'm like, you guys, one of the biggest archives in the United States is from one individual Black woman, like literally. So I'm trying to kind of archive my life as much as I can right now, because we're going through some shit as a people. Yeah. And one day they might want to know what some random individual was doing or thinking or whatevering. And, you know, we might as well be people to help out with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I carry a notebook every day, mostly for jokes, but it is interesting to hear that you're like, I can't get into the stream of consciousness of just writing, because I definitely, I can get there, but of course I'm always like, what's the joke? You know, like, what's the bit of it? You know, I'm just like writing about life, and then I'm like, but where's the punchline?
Yeah, for me, I'm like, but what's my point? Like, yes, I'm rambling, but to what end?
Interesting. Yeah, which I don't have that thought. Like, my thought is always like, can I make this funny, I guess, but I'm okay with it like being just random writing overall. But yeah, I'm still like because a lot of comics nowadays, they like use their phones and they like type into their phones, but I'm just like, I'm still old school writing.
I love to analog.
Yeah, it's just like, and having the page and then like finishing a notebook. What a feeling.
Oh my God. I finished one journal before. I'm on my second journal in my life, and it feels, I'm like, I write more to get to that feeling faster.
Oh,
I'm like,
let
me fill this up faster so I can start a new
journal. Yeah. Like, I'm literally like, I think 2 pages away from finishing my notebook right now, and I feel so accomplished. I'm like, I'm like every day looking at the 2 pages being like, pretty soon.
Yeah.
Pretty soon I'll be done with this.
That is a satisfaction for sure.
Yeah. So where can people find you online?
I am online as Hot Girls Healing Podcast on Instagram and on TikTok. On Twitter, I want to say Selena Green, SALENNA, green spelled like the color. But I'm mostly active on Instagram and TikTok. So just find me there. Yeah. And then hit me up and connect with me, collaborate with me. Shoot, pay me for something. Right? Like, why not?
Yeah. So do you feel like with your podcast and everything that you do, you just said like, find me on TikTok, right? Like, do you think that's like your most effective social media, or are you just like, or is it like just the one that you pay most attention to? Or
I think Instagram is probably my most effective social media. They say that you should focus on 4 social media platforms, and then
immediately
isn't that scared. A lot? Like, I was like 4, and then I like counted it out, and I was like, I'm only on 4, so I have to mine and focus on those. You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
I tried to make a Pinterest once.
Didn't go well?
I don't think I get it. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I got on Reddit one time. That was pretty cool.
You just logged on?
Yeah. Just to see what's up. Because on Twitter, there'll be like screenshots from Reddit.
Oh, for sure.
And I'm like, well, damn, they over there talking on Reddit. Let me go see. I could never get into like the stuff that they be posting over there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm like, I feel ancient. I'm trying to figure out YouTube right now. And it stresses me out.
I'm on YouTube. My podcast episodes are up on YouTube. I forgot to mention that. Does that count?
Yeah, I think that counts.
See, I'm like of the people who go to YouTube for music videos and that's it. So I forget that like that's a thing.
You don't watch it at all?
I listen to my own podcast. Oh, you know what? I do. I listen to Bailey Sarian on YouTube. She does like murder, mystery, and makeup. She will beat her face. Look, that's how I got into it, because I actually look at most things without audio because I get overstimulated pretty easily.
Okay.
I was watching her for the longest time, just video after video of her doing her makeup, and she was talking the entire time. So one day I was like, maybe I'll see what she's saying.
Because I've now transferred over to being the person that watches YouTube on their TV.
Really?
And I feel like
you're in there.
I feel like I watch it more than a lot of streaming services because it's like there's something new all the time. But also, if I'm being honest, there's like a certain type of video that I watch a lot of, and it's kind of embarrassing. But it's I watch a lot of it's called like Will It Run, where it's like people that buy crappy cars or broken down cars, and then they get them to run, and then they like drive them home sometimes. So it's like 500 miles home, and so it's like I'm watching a stranger, fix the carburetor, get the spark plugs, and then the whole time we're like, is it gonna make it home? And I'll tell you, most of the time it does. So
that is good to know. You know what? You're like my husband. He will be watching YouTube on the TV.
Yeah.
It's like some random guy, and the whole video is just his hands, like working on something. I'm like, I can't watch that.
Okay.
No. I have been able to watch podcasts on YouTube, music videos.
Yeah.
The occasional, educational video if I get a link to something. But yeah, I don't really go over there a ton.
Really? What's that about?
I'm busy reading a book somewhere. I told you what I like to do. Or paint, take some pictures.
Yeah.
I really like to do stuff. I don't like to watch as much. I'm going to do. You watch me.
Yeah, you like to work with your hands and have like a project and finish to start something. I get that. That's definitely a good way to be. And it's like, it's so silly. It's like also like I'm trying to like take walks more. And it's the same as like that, right? Where it's like if I was like doing a painting or taking a walk, like I would feel better than watching these videos on YouTube. But of course I'm just like, well, let me just lay on the couch and do nothing.
Well, I like a vlog. I like to watch other people do stuff.
Like, really? You watch
the daily vlogs?
Really?
Yeah.
On like TikTok or like?
On TikTok. Yeah, because they're always like, see the longer version on YouTube. Why would I watch a longer?
You're like, I got it.
I already saw your whole day. I'm good.
I saw the snippets, the breakfast.
And I didn't hear your day because I literally just watched it without audio. My sister or my husband will be like, did you watch it with audio? I'm like, I'm going back if they send me something.
It is.
I didn't listen to that.
It is interesting. I remember reading a statistic a while back about the percent of people that watch videos without audio.
That's why I need captions.
Major. Yeah, captions
Caption
are huge.
me because I don't want to listen to it.
Yeah, I have to hear it. I have to know what's going on.
I might listen to it. Maybe. If it feels safe.
All right.
Maybe that's an anxiety thing.
Really?
It might be.
Just too much.
It just feels like it might be too much to hear until I've seen it first.
You think it's like anxiety commitment issue where you're like, I'm committing to this?
I'm just like, I don't want to hear it though. That's just me.
You're like, I'm not ready to unpack this.
Yeah. Let me just see it first. Then I'll decide if I want to hear it.
Let me watch it from your phone at a distance. Maybe I'll bring it over to my phone.
It's not that bad.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for doing the podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was a really fun conversation. I like that we talked about a lot of different things.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, I'm not stressed about any of it.
That's good. I love just
a chill, easy vibe. I don't feel stressed about it either.
Okay, good.
But I feel like it was interesting, and that's what I like.
Yeah, same. Well, thank you so much for doing the show. I appreciate it. I've been your host, Zach Lyman, and this has been the Zach Lyman Podcast and outro music.